Now, ironically, but unintentionally, this is the 13th video and final video in my Record of Ragnarok episode reviews for Season 1, now out on Netflix. Your host, Griever, as always. This video is going to be a series overview, or a Season 1 overview. Now, if you guys are waiting for the big rant, or the, let's call it just what it is, the shitpost segment...
You serious?
Stay tuned, we are going to have that. But first, I just want to talk about a few key things about the series and how we rate things, because different people rate things far differently, and we're going to get into how people actually rate things. But first, let's jump into something else. Let's jump into what is an anime adaptation. Let's just jump into that really quick. A quick overview of what you consider an anime adaptation, because this is one, I'm not denying that. But let's talk about the few key things that make an anime different from a manga. And no, color is not one of them, guys. I mean, there's color panels all the time. Hell, One Piece, 900 plus chapters of it is in color, so that doesn't count. We're shit. The three things that I would consider that matter, that are different from a manga, that you cannot get from a manga, no matter how good the art is, no matter how good the style is, no matter how good the author, the mangaka is, these are three things that the anime has an opportunity to shine in. And these three things that a manga can never give you is sound, voice acting, and animation. These are the three core values of anime. And they are the things that separate an anime from a manga. So, what was the problem? Why the negativity for Record of Ragnarok Season 1? Well, it wasn't the soundtrack. I haven't heard a single complaint about the soundtrack. In fact, honestly, the soundtrack... Is there a single complaint? Because I haven't heard one complaint about any OST playing. The only thing that could knock the soundtrack down and the sound effects and everything else down would be the one problem, which was the opening. And the opening song is not bad for people who like that screamo death metal music. It's not to my taste. It's not to a lot of people's taste. However, that would be the only flaw in the entirety of the soundtrack, and I think I make a fair statement saying that. Now, number two is, of course, the VAs. Well, I listened to the first couple of episodes in Japanese, and I did the sub thing, like a lot of you have done, right? Of course, you guys have done this. You know, you read the subtitles and you watch the Japanese. Surprisingly enough, I decided to watch it in English after the first 2 or 3 episodes. I went back, I watched them, and then I went, this is really damn good. I don't see a reason not. Because English dubbing is always sort of a hit and miss with a lot of anime crowds. But in this particular instance, the English VAs did a phenomenal job. We had some great veteran VAs in it. Even though it was not necessarily an ensemble cast, but there were certainly some veterans here in this series, and I found that every single voice, I have not a single complaint about a single VA throughout the entire of the 12 episodes. So, by that logic, whether you watch the Japanese or the English, once again, your second point, which is the VAs, well... I mean, I don't have much complaint, and I haven't heard many complaints, whether it was on Discord, Reddit, Twitter, whatever floats your boat. For social media, I didn't hear much in the way of complaints. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room, number 3. Now, number 3 is the animation. Regardless what you guys may think, regardless what I might think, this is not... Repeat, not the worst animation of all time. It's just not. Anybody who says it is probably about 15 years old and never seen a damn thing past 2010. So they wouldn't know any better. Is that their fault? No, maybe so, whatever. But at the end of the day, there has been far worse animation. Not just in the Japanimation community, but here in the West as well. There has been far worse animation across the decades. So that's a bit of an overreach. Wouldn't we agree on that? Okay. What people are complaining about is the key things. Let's talk about them in order. The Adam vs. Zeus PowerPoint. That's a big one. Once again, 0.1215% of the entire anime, but apparently that matters more than over 99% of it. Still, I understand, as an Adam vs. Zeus fan myself, I was very disappointed to see this. However, it does not make or break an anime. Less than 1% of an entire runtime of a movie does not break a movie either. So I just failed to see the reason. Number 2, we have the idea that stills and overuse of stills. Once again, objectively, absolutely. There was way too many stills, regardless of how detailed they were, which once again, I feel like almost about over 90% of any screenshot you could take from episode 1 to the end of episode 12, you could hit your keyboard and whatever keys, depending if you're Windows or Mac or whatever, you could hit that Windows print button and you could take a screenshot of frame by frame, and honestly, none of them look terrible. None of them are disappointing. None of them are that bad compared to many, many other animes and such, which is what people are basing this on. You can't give a rating if you've never seen anything else, realistically. So, the first painting you ever see or the first music you ever hear, I mean, you have nothing to compare it to. Thus, you have a very narrow vision of what good, bad, or horrific. It might be the best song of all time. It might be the worst song of all time. But if you only ever heard one song, how would you know any different, regardless what you think of the song? So there's that. So the overuse of stills is still a very viable reason to complain. It knocks a whole point down on my personal rating of the series. It drops it down by an entire point out of 10 because, yes, no matter how detailed, the reason it's not 2 points is because it's heavily detailed stills. They are still heavily detailed, but there is an abundance of overuse of them. More animation and less stills would have made the production far better, but it just did not happen. I'm not making excuses for that, and it knocks down a whole point for me, though, as I said, as a compromise, I would say at least the stills looked good. Now, because there are anime, 7 Deadly Sins, that not a single shot in an entire episode looks good. There's not a single screenshot worth using. So, for any thumbnail or any picture or any poster at all times. Then we get into one of the other points, which is the crowd reactions. One of the big things was the crowd reactions. Not only an overuse of stills at this point, but an overuse of the same stills. That is actually, honestly, even though people say the PowerPoint first, which I understand, and then, of course, the overuse of stills, honestly, this was the most egregious thing. This should sit up as the number one problem that I found that really irked me the longer I watched the season. The longer I watched the season, the more upset I got at the fact that they continually used the same, and honestly, the worst stills in the entire series, the worst stills, and they kept using them almost every single episode, multiple times an episode, to show the human and the god, crowd reactions, couple of lip flap changes, and that was it. And that was abysmal. That, honestly, takes it down another whole point for me. And that's all I really got, in all honesty, because I've heard, once again, the 3 points that make a manga. Let's say you think that the Record of Ragnarok, Shumatsu no Valkyrie manga, was 10 out of 10, perfection, peak fiction, and whatever else you want to call it, and there was not a single flaw, okay? And we got this anime adaptation. Now, as I said before, the 3 things that are different between a manga and a anime, assuming that they don't change anything in the plot, story, or characters, is these 3 things: sound, voice acting, and animation. Now, we've already admitted that very little can be said poorly about the OST. Almost nothing I have heard a single complaint about, whether it's the Japanese or the English VA. I have not heard a single problem. So that's 2 out of 3. Were we to do a fraction, that would be 66.66666%. That would be an endless 666, and then it hits a 7 or something weird. Math is fun. But it'd be 2/3, it'd be a 66%. That easily means 6.5 out of 10 for anime alone. Because if we're not going to credit the anime for doing anything related to story and characters and everything else, then you need to accept that an anime should only be judged not on the merits of the manga, not on the merits of the characters, concepts, or story, or pacing for that matter, but only based on the 3 things that make an anime different from the manga. In this regard, below a 6.666 infinite out of 10, the math doesn't lie, ladies and gentlemen. Now, granted, if you want to say the OST should not deserve the entire point, like, once again, if you want to rate that an 8 or a 9, fair enough, and then you want to rate the same for the VAs, 8 or 9, not perfect, but pretty solid, then even then, the lowest you could go was a 5. If you do out the math. I'm not going to do the math here. I mean, I think the lowest is 48%, so that would be about 4.8 out of 10, right? So the thing is that the numbers don't lie. So anybody rating the series based on if you gave the animation a 0, which it is not, but if you gave the animation a 0 and you only accepted that the OST and the voice acting was good, the worst rating it could get is 4 out of 10. So by that logic, by using math, people, math, there is no way to rate it below a 4 out of 10. Unless you hated the OST and the animation. Or the VAs and the animation. Or the animation, the OST, and everything, and it's the worst thing you've ever seen. Granted, the OST is very good, and you would be in the minority, and the voice acting had nothing wrong with it. So, once again, not a single problem. So, as I said, I went over all the reasons that people are going to give the animation a 0. It's not a 0. A 0 for animation would be literally that 21 seconds, that PowerPoint presentation that everybody's complaining about, that would be all 12 episodes. That would be a 0 in animation. A stick figure moving is still animation. You can't literally say it's 0 because 0 implies there was none. And there was animation. Whether you liked it or disliked it, there was still animation. Whether you like the style or whatever. So at the very least you give it a 1. But once again, an unfair rating because some of the shots were very well done. Episode 8, other than the PowerPoint presentation, was a solid 8 up until that point. And that dropped it down. The final episode was very well done, very well animated. Lubu versus Thor, a lot of people didn't care for that either. But overall, it wasn't that bad. An overuse of stills, but detailed stills. And when the hair was flowing and the animation was going, everything seemed fine to me. And then when we got solid animation through the use of CGI, all everybody did was complain. Hermes was fluid, the CGI was solid, the colors and everything worked out fine. The violin idea was unique, I enjoyed it. But the idea that we had 2D and 3D and randomly in the middle of a season we had CGI Hermes put people off because people don't like, even though nothing is hand-drawn anymore, and people will point to non-hand-drawn animation, which by the way is every anime you've seen in the last decade. So anybody who's going to point out an anime that's hand-drawn, you're wrong. It's all digital now. They haven't been hand-drawing anime for a number of years. I'm old enough to remember what hand-drawn looks like. And none of it is. So the idea is this cel-shaded and CGI and digital is the new art style of anime. So the fact of the matter is people are complaining about the CGI aspect of Hermes, but for the first time we got, I would argue, very good CGI, and all anybody did was complain that it was CGI. So we have a very negative, glass half empty sort of crowd rating this thing. But as I just proved with logic, with math, unless you guys have an entirely different system in how you gauge an anime. But I think I made my point clear that if a manga's story and characters is 10 out of 10, and you don't apply any of that because it's only the manga's merits, if the anime screws up the animation, 0 out of 10, then you cannot apply it back and forth. So any well-animated thing, Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, One Punch Man, Season 1, Seven Deadly Sins, Season 1 by A1 Pictures, any of these things, you cannot say as an anime, for rating an anime, you cannot use any of the story, plot, characters, or pacing in that rating. By this logic, the logic that the fan base, the supposed community and fan base is using to rate Shumatsu no Valkyrie has no bearing, because they are going to tell me that One Punch Man is great because of this character. No. The manga is great because of that character. They're going to tell me Seven Deadly Sins is great because of the first arc. No. That's the manga. The anime doesn't count. But apparently, a fantastic premise with great characters and a great story matters nothing when it comes to Record of Ragnarok. Do you guys not see the irony I'm sort of laying out plain as day, picture worthy, frame it on your goddamn wall levels? That's sort of what we're talking about here. Now, I said we would keep the ship posting to a minimum before I said we're going to ship post, but as we can tell, that did not happen. That being said, let's move on to the second topic, and finally we'll get to the real ship posting, the ship roasting, if you will. And I know that this is going to be a very disliked video, guys, but I don't care. Also, by the way, thanks for 600 subscribers. You guys are awesome. That being said, all right, let's jump in to the other thing and how people rate things. Whether you rate it on a star system, a 1 out of 10, a percentage, a letter rank, at the end of the day, here's what everyone sort of needs to explain, I believe, because I think there's confusion, because there's so many different ways and different systems of rating things, I think some people get confused. For example, a lot of people would call 5 out of 10 being average. Okay, that's fair if you want to call it average. If your 0 to 10 system out of 10 is that 5 is a 5 out of 10 would be average, and anything above a 5 would be above average, good, etc., and you were to give this series a 5, then I would say that's a fair rating. 5 out of 10 would be a fair rating. But if you, like many in the West, and many actually in Europe as well, in Central, you are used to a percentage-based system or a grading system, then when you convert certain things, like here's the difference. In a letter grade system, a C would be considered your average. Can we agree on that? You know, D would be okay, E would be not good, F would be fail, C would be average or maybe almost above average. That's where we get into the minus plus thing, but C would be average, B would be good, A would be great, right? Or if you want to go amazing, great, good, whatever, you'd still be throwing yourself into the C, D ranking, right? But that's only if you're letter-based only, and people will convert. Here's the problem with rating systems, as I just showed you, between a number and that, and a percentage-based system, is that people are going to use conversions, and they're going to use their own understanding of whether they went through grade school, college, etc., where they live in the world. They're going to do a conversion system to base what somebody else's rating is upon, and then they're going to judge it based on that. Once again, and I am also someone who fell into that trap. A grading system needs to be discussed beforehand by both participants or all participants. If we're going to do a letter grade, we need to establish what the letter grades mean. And I know a lot of people use S tier these days, but whatever. A is the highest, right? And in a percentage base, we need to agree what 50% means, what 75 means, what 25 means, and what 100 means, right? And this is a cause by westernized and European schools by using this factor. Everything below, and this is why I rate the series a 7.5 out of 10. And you guys might be saying, holy shit, that's pretty high. Don't you think that's a little high? No, because that's only a C+. That's all that is. That's a C+. It's average. It's a better than average anime, but it's not great. It's not amazing. It's decent. It's okay. And there were some key moments, but there's some key faults. That's what that rating is. But someone else might use the same out of 10 and use 5 and mean the same exact thing. But you would compare us and you would say 5 to 7.5. Clearly you guys have different opinions. Clearly I like the series more. Not necessarily. Because we have this difference in how people perceive rating systems. So from this point on, I am going to be using, here is what, when I give a rating for everybody out there, when I do an out of 10 rating, and this is why I never did this for the longest time on my channel, because I knew this confusion would be brought up, and it's come to bite me in the ass here in all these Record of Ragnarok reviews, is the fact that below a 5 is an F, is a fail. In college, below a 70%, a 7 out of 10, is a fail of the year when I went to electrical college. If you got below a 70 or a 7 out of 10, you failed. In grade school, from primary to 12, if you got below a 50%, a 5 out of 10, or below an E, which was 50% converted, you failed. So that means that 0 to 5 is basically out the window. Anything below that, you would give Shumatsu no Valkyrie an F. Record of Ragnarok, the anime, is an F if you give it below a 5. And with a 5, that means that's the kid who barely squeezed by, managed to pass his exam with a 61, a 53, and something else, and just barely got through, his school to get his diploma, right? That's what you're considering that. And that's the way I'm going to be doing my ratings from here on out. You can disagree with that and you can say, no, but no. Like 5 is my average. Everything above a 5 is good, which is another form of mathematics, which I'm perfectly fine with. But I just want to let everybody know here, and I'm not blaming anyone, whatever system you want to use, I'm not telling you to use my system. What I'm telling you guys to do is definitely make sure you recognize what my system is. So when I say 7.5, I mean average. I mean it's good, not great. But it's not bad either. It's not a D, it's not a B, it's a C. All right? So from here on out, just wanted to make that clear and showcase that there are so many different ways. Some people use star ratings, some people use, as I said, percentages and yada, yada, yada. I know Rotten Tomatoes, the big movie website, they use percentage-based things. Well, what does that mean? What does it actually mean? Is a 47 the worst movie of all time? Is it? I don't know, because if we were to convert that to the 5 out of 10 system where 5 is average, that would mean that a 47% would mean the movie's okay. But I always took movies that had like a 30 or a 40% average on Rotten Tomatoes meant the movie was absolutely dreadful. Am I wrong? Is that the case? You see what I'm saying? It depends on how you rate the system, how you use the system, and what you consider the numbers in the system. All right. So now let's move on to the shitposting. Oh yeah, are you guys not entertained yet? Because here's the crux. I know I made you wait like every other goddamn clickbait YouTuber, but let's talk some trash. Let's do some trash talking, let's do some shit posting, and let's give the middle finger to all the people that don't clearly want a season 2. And you know what? As a guy who loves round 4, I already said this in the review for episode 12, I want to see Heracles versus Jack animated. I don't care if it's the worst animated thing you ever saw. Clearly you haven't seen very much. I don't care what you think. I want a season 2. And I want to see round 4 animated. And you know what? If it was animated in this quality, I'd still appreciate the fact that I got it rather than I didn't get it at all. You guys are so glass is half empty, and I'm glass is half full. I understand that the glass is half full. Once again, we already talked about percentages here, right? But let's go on, that seems to be the norm rating system here on YouTube. If 5 is average, that would mean glass half empty, and also glass is half full, right? Let's look at it. Ironically, pretty close, right? Glass half empty, glass half full. Now, me personally, I'm with the beer. Let's get this a little more accurate. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Okay, so, but these people, here are the people who want season 2. Here are the people who don't want season 2. And my problem is that these goddamn people are going to make these goddamn people upset and angry and not get what they fucking want. And that's not fair. I don't care if you're in this camp. Sit down and shut up. I just don't care. As I said, this is the shitposting argument. This is where I give the middle finger to all the naysayers. Was it a decent anime? Yes. Was it garbage? No. It was not garbage. It was not trash. It was not the worst thing you've ever seen. If this is the worst thing you've ever seen, you've never turned on CNN. For God's sakes, you've never seen a terrible animated film before in your life. All you've ever seen, for God's sakes, the first season of Family Guy is worse. King of the Hill is worse. All those Western comedy shows are all terribly animated. They don't get well animated until they get the fucking moolah. So give me a goddamn break, okay? Because I'm sick and tired of this shit. I'm sick and tired of people telling me it's trash, it's garbage, and it's the worst thing you've ever seen. If it's the worst thing you've ever seen, get out more. For God's sakes, get out more. Like, shit. I've seen an unmowed lawn that still looked pretty good. Like, Jesus Christ. You guys are just, you're whiners. You're entitled children. Sit down, shut the fuck up, and enjoy the fact that we got an anime all together. Because you know who we're going to come after? You know who all the people that sat down, from the people who say, we all know it's not amazing. I haven't heard a single person tell you and try to convince you guys, all you, and here's the thing, My Hero Academia, the latest chapter, My Hero Academia actually stated exactly what it's like to be in this community right now. This week, exactly what it feels like. The hero guy, I forget, I'm not a huge MHA stan, but he said that 10 fans are drowned out by one heckler. And you know what you fucking negative people are? You know what this group is? They are the hecklers. They don't outnumber us, but they're screaming the loudest because they're entitled children. That's what they are. They're entitled whiners who don't know what they actually want. They don't know, well, they do know what they want. You know what they want? They want $10 billion put into a project because they love it. They don't consider the means, the production, the money it takes, how to sell the product, all these factors. They don't consider what it takes to get shit done. Everyone thinks Netflix is amazing up until they take a project and it's not Demon Slayer. Sorry. But I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. Because this is ridiculous. This shit is absolutely perfectly decent. Perfectly average. There's not a single one of us in this group that I have seen, maybe there is, but I have not seen a single one of them say that this is 10 out of 10. Even 9 out of 10. The person with the highest rating I have seen in the entirety of Reddit and Discord and Tumblr and Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else is me, and I gave it an 8, and I said that that was being generous. I'm the one standing in that crowd at the top of that glass going, it's not bad. And even I'm only giving it a 7.5. I'm giving it a C ranking, not even a B, and I'm the one with the best rating. But for some damn reason, all of you, and you know what you'll complain about. See, here's the problem. Once again, let's go back to the original point. The problem is that I want to see round 4. I don't give a shit about round 5, to be honest with you, but I want to see Heracles versus Jack. Arguably one of everyone's favorite fights in the entire series. It steps up right there with Adam and Zeus, and you fucking glass half empty people are going to make it. You're going to try, with all your shitty negativity, oh my God, I'm on social media, my opinion matters, bullshit. And if it causes us to get a cancellation, what are you going to do about it? Seriously, where's your compensation for this group of people? Here's the difference. This group of people here, your group, does not need to watch season 2. If you hated this season, if you think it's the worst thing your eyes have ever seen, by the way, go watch 7 Deadly Sins sometime. If you think, or Toriko, if you think that this is the worst thing you've ever seen, then I urge this group, don't watch the next season. Don't watch it. But how about you let this group enjoy the potential for season 2. How about that? And by the way, where is this group of people going to be if season 2 is fucking fire? What if Heracles versus Jack was going to be Demon Slayer animation? Let's say it was going to be beyond Demon Slayer, beyond Dragon Ball, Broly, beyond every animated thing you have ever seen in your goddamn life. That shit's going to put Disney out of business level animation. Let's say that was the budget and that was the plan. Let's just hypothesize for a moment. But this fucking group, this empty, glass half empty group, what if the producers now, after seeing all your fucking bullshit and negativity on Twitter and all the social media sites, went, listen guys, listen studio, we're going to have to pull the money. Maybe we'll reconvene next year and stuff, and maybe you'll have a lower budget. We were willing to commit, $2.5 million to this project because we thought it'd be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But with all the negativity with season 1, like, we just can't have the bad press. Clearly they don't like it. Clearly the direction's wrong. Maybe it's just not suited for an anime adaptation. And the negativity is just saying that, we ended up with not a great product, but a decent product, and everybody hates it. So I just don't see, like, me as a producer, I don't feel like giving you my $2.5 million. I might give you $750,000, and by the way, I'm only going to give you 3 months, not a year. Now how do you assholes fucking feel? Because you know that's what they do behind closed doors. If you think they don't read social media, you're a goddamn idiot. Just like people who say that the Escanor versus Meliodas fight is actually better than anything in Record of Ragnarok. Every single shot, the worst still, the crowd still. In every episode, the reused human crowd still in Record of Ragnarok is better than every shot of Escanor versus Meliodas. That's a fact. Anybody who doesn't think so, get the fuck out of the anime community. You clearly are blind. You haven't actually seen a goddamn thing. You clearly didn't watch the episode. Clearly. So I'm sick and tired of this bullshit because this group is going to ruin it for the other group. Why don't you sit down, leave the group, and let the other, this group can leave. You don't need a season 2, but sit down and shut up so that when this group comes back and maybe we do get the greatest animated thing of all time, how would you guys feel? How would this group feel if that's the conversation with the producers that was going on right now, behind closed doors right now, because you know they have it, you know they read social media, and you know they take in fan appreciation. They take in not just the money, but they think about the fan reactions and how to fix things. You know they do this. So, and you know what gives producers the incentive to give more money? Is when Twitter goes glass awful. So this little shit group here is going to potentially ruin not even the chance that maybe we would get some of the greatest animation of all time. Now that's just spitballing. But how would you fucking feel? How would you feel if in 3 months they said that Bones and Madhouse were going to collab for Heracles versus Jack? How would you feel about that? That 3 studios, the greatest studios of all time of anime, were going to collab for this fight because it was so hype, and they pulled out because of your fucking negativity. How the fuck would you feel? And how would you compensate the fans like me who did not do that? Who did give it a decent rating, who were unbiased and actually objective about this fucking series? How would you compensate me? You bunch of fucking assholes. So there. That's my rant. That's my shit posting. And I hope any one of you that gave that shit said it was the worst thing you've ever watched, then fine, stop watching TV, you fucking idiot. I got no time for that shit anymore. I'm 30 fucking years old, and I don't have time to waste on a bunch of fucking entitled children who don't know their head from their ass that are going to tell me what a good anime is anymore. I've seen more watch time. I've seen more shit, read more manga, and watched more movies, read more books. I've done everything you have done in your life regards to media. I guarantee you my number's higher. So guess what? You're fucking wrong. You give it a 0 out of 10, you're wrong. You say it's trash, you're wrong. You say it's garbage, you're wrong. If you say that Escanor versus Malios was better, you're fucking an idiot, and you're also wrong. So there you go. That's my rant. That's my shitpost. I didn't want to have to do this during the Tokyo Ghoul stream on Friday. I understand if you want to unsubscribe by this. And remember, I'm not pointing at any single one of you as my subscribers because I think that my subscribers are all fans of this series. I think you all appreciate what they tried to do. You see the flaws like I do. You give it a 5, a 6, a 7 at most, and you're just like, you know what? I wish they had done a better job. I believe that all 600 plus of my subscribers are in that camp. You guys are not in the camp I was talking about. You guys are fucking champs. You guys are chads. And you guys understand what good and bad means. You understand the definition of the English goddamn words. So thank you very much. Have a good night. No, and you know what? I'm not drinking responsibly tonight. First video of all time. I'm not drinking responsibly tonight. I'm going to drink away this fucking pain I feel knowing that potentially the fear that there might have been a producer that's going to pull out and Heracles versus Jack. This is assuming we get a season 2 at all because of this group. This is assuming we even get a season 2. And even if we do, how much budget, money, and time are they going to allot knowing that this group fucked the rest of us over? So that's my rant. That's my video. If you have a problem with it, comment down below. Unsubscribe. Dislike the video. I just don't give a fuck. Later.